Hungary. Just the name sounds like a rejected Disney villain, doesn't it? But don't let that fool you. This small landlocked nation is anything but a pushover. Nestled in the heart of Europe, Hungary has a rich tapestry of history and culture that defies its size. It's more like the scrappy underdog of Europe, constantly underestimated, but always ready with a witty comeback and a plate of delicious goulash. Imagine a place where every meal is a celebration and every dance tells a story. Think of it this way. Hungary is like that friend who always has the best stories, the kind of stories that make you laugh, cry, and gasp in disbelief. The ones that start with "Hold my Palinka" and "Listen to this," and you know you're in for a wild ride. Their history is a wild, wonderful mess of conquering empires, rebellious princes, and enough plot twists to make George R.R. Martin blush. We've got nomadic horsemen, Ottoman baths, Habsburg headaches, and tales of resilience and rebellion. And let's not forget the brief but glorious period of communism with a side of goulash. A time when the spirit of the people shone through even the darkest days. So, buckle up, Buttercup, because we're about to dive headfirst into the wacky and wonderful world of Hungarian history. Get ready to explore a land of legends, laughter, and lasting legacies. Our story begins over 1,000 years ago with a nomadic tribe called the Magyars. These were no ordinary wanderers. They were a formidable group with a rich culture and a fierce reputation. Imagine a bunch of dudes on horseback, sporting some seriously impressive moustaches, and you've got the basic idea. Their moustaches were more than just facial hair. They were a symbol of their warrior status and pride. These guys were tough, they were mobile, and they were really, really good at archery, like Olympic-level good. They could shoot arrows with pinpoint accuracy while galloping at full speed, a skill that made them nearly unstoppable in battle. They swept across Europe, leaving a trail of bewildered bystanders and conquered territories in their wake. Their swift and strategic movements baffled many established armies, making them a force to be reckoned with. Finally, they decided to settle down in the Carpathian Basin, a cosy little spot in Central Europe. This fertile and strategically located area offered them the perfect place to establish a new homeland. Think of it as their version of finding a nice apartment after years of couch surfing. Thus, Hungary was born. They built villages, cultivated the land, and began to form the foundations of what would become a great nation. Well, not officially. That came later with a crown, a king, and a whole lot of pomp and circumstance. The coronation ceremonies were grand affairs, filled with rituals and celebrations that solidified their new identity. But the Magyars were the OG Hungarians, the founding fathers and mothers, let's be fair, of this quirky little nation. They laid the groundwork for a rich cultural heritage that continues to thrive to this day. Enter stage left King Stephen I, the first crowned king of Hungary. His reign marked the beginning of a new era for the Hungarian people. This guy was a devout Christian, a skilled diplomat, and according to some sources, quite the looker. His faith and charm played a crucial role in his leadership. Think of him as the George Clooney of 11th century Europe. His charisma and vision helped him win the hearts of his people and allies alike. Stephen had two major goals: convert the pagan Magyars to Christianity and turn Hungary into a proper European kingdom. These were no small feats and required immense dedication. He succeeded at both, though not without some hiccups along the way. His efforts laid the foundation for Hungary's future as a Christian nation. There were battles, rebellions, and even a few family squabbles thrown in for good measure. These challenges tested his resolve and leadership. It wouldn't be a proper dynasty without a bit of drama, right? The court was often a hotbed of intrigue and power struggles. The Arpad dynasty, named after good old Stephen, ruled Hungary for over 300 years. Their legacy is a testament to their enduring influence. They fought wars, expanded their territory, and generally tried to keep up with the Joneses, or Habsburgs as they were known back then, of Europe. Their ambition and resilience shaped the course of Hungarian history. Fast forward a few centuries and Hungary found itself staring down the barrel of the Ottoman Empire. These guys were like the cool kids in the schoolyard, except instead of stealing lunch money, they conquered entire countries. For 150 years, Hungary was part of the Ottoman Empire. It wasn't all bad, though. The Ottomans brought coffee, baths, and some pretty sweet architecture. They also brought, taxes, warfare, and religious tension. It was a mixed bag, to say the least. The Hungarians, being the resilient bunch they are, never gave up hope of regaining their independence. They staged rebellions, formed alliances, and basically made life as difficult as possible for their Ottoman overlords. Section 5. Habsburg Hangover, a tale of two empires. After the Ottomans were finally given the boot, Hungary found itself under the rule of the Habsburgs. The Habsburgs were a powerful dynasty that ruled over Austria and a good chunk of Europe. They were like the overachievers of history, always collecting titles and territories like they were going out of style. Now, the Habsburgs weren't all bad. They brought economic development, cultural exchange, and a whole lot of Baroque architecture. But they also brought, you guessed it, more taxes, more wars, and more attempts to suppress Hungarian culture and language. This period was a constant tug-of-war between Hungarian nationalism and Habsburg control. It was like a messy breakup that dragged on for centuries. Section 6. The short and sweet Interwar Period. After World War I, the Habsburg Empire finally went kaput. It was the end of an era, and Hungary was finally free to be its own boss. Of course, free is a relative term. Hungary lost a significant chunk of its territory in the Treaty of Trianon, a move that still stings for many Hungarians today. Imagine losing two-thirds of your country overnight, and you'll have a sense of the frustration and resentment that lingered in the air. Despite the territorial losses, Hungary was determined to make the most of its newfound independence. It established a parliamentary democracy, rebuilt its economy, and even managed to squeeze in a few years of relative peace and prosperity. Section 7. Communism, canned goods, and Cadillacs. But then came World War II, and Hungary, caught between a rock and a hard place, found itself allied with Nazi Germany. It wasn't exactly a match made in heaven, but what can you do when you're stuck between a rock and a Nazi? After the war, the Soviet Union swept in and installed a communist government. Say hello to breadlines, secret police and mandatory May Day parades. It wasn't exactly a barrel of laughs. But even under communism, Hungary found ways to be unique. They had goulash communism, a slightly more relaxed version of the Soviet model. Think of it as communism with a side of paprika and a dash of freedom. Section 8. Goulash communism, a Hungarian recipe for change. By the 1980s, the cracks in the Iron Curtain were starting to show. Hungary, always the rebel, played a key role in the fall of communism in Eastern Europe. They opened their borders with Austria, allowing East Germans to flee to the west. It was a pivotal moment in history, and it all started with a picnic basket and a pair of wire cutters. Finally, in 1989, Hungary held its first free elections in over 40 years. The communist government was out, and democracy was back in. It was a time of hope, excitement, and a healthy dose of uncertainty. Section 9. So, you think you can paprika? So, there you have it, a whirlwind tour of Hungarian history. From conquering horsemen to quirky kings, Ottoman baths to Habsburg headaches, communist dictators to democratic revolutions, Hungary has seen it all. It's a country with a rich and complicated past, but also a vibrant present and a promising future. So next time you hear the word Hungary, don't just think of goulash and paprika, though those are both delicious. Think of a nation that has overcome countless obstacles and emerged stronger, funnier, and more resilient than ever.